asking you kind of a funny question. If you have lost the weight before and then gained it all back, or maybe you haven't lost all the weight, but you've lost some weight and then you've gained it back, we like to call that yo-yo dieting. That's really what we want to avoid the conversation we want to have today for day 3. This is all about using biblical wisdom to lose the weight and keep it off, because that yo-yo dieting keeps us like stuck and down and depressed and feeling like a failure, not wanting to get up again. And it's so stinking hard to have to like psych yourself back up to lose the weight again.
That's right. So today we want to say, put up your gutter guards. Yeah. You might not know what we're talking about, but we're talking about bowling. Yeah. You know, we just had a birthday party for her little one not that long ago. And when little ones are bowling, they have these gutter guards that they can click up or push a button and these guards come up so the ball doesn't roll into the gutter. Sometimes we're distracted. Sometimes we lose our way. We're going into the gutter. We go right, we go left, but we don't stay on the narrow path in the middle. Yeah. So it's time today to put up our gutter guards.
And I want to say those gutters for us can be a lot of different things on a weight loss journey. It can be like the self-talk we're using, only listening to the mean voice in our heads. It can be like not being consistent with making good decisions. It can be having a ditch it all mentality. It can be feeling discouraged because it's not happening fast enough. Like the gutters exist in our minds more than anywhere else.
And they're strong.
They are very strong. They like suck that ball right over, right?
It's like,
yeah. And then you're just down the gutter, down the hole. And you don't knock any of those balls down then.
I know. And so then you get just more discouraged. And then pretty soon, I'm quitting this game.
Yeah, because it's not working.
I'm quitting this race. And the Bible, biblical wisdom says, no, we don't ever quit the race. Yeah. We're in it for the long haul.
Because, like, honestly, we know how discouraging it is to lose the weight and then gain it back. We've done it before. We know probably most of you have done it before, because that is fad diet culture. Yo-yo diets, right? You lose some, you gain more. You lose a little bit, you gain some more. And it just keeps going. And it's like so many people can look at their lives and go, you know, the last 20 or 30 or 40 years of my life has been
yo-yo
up
dieting.
And down and up and down and yo-yo dieting. And like, think about, that's exhausting to think about, let alone live.
Oh man,
right?
That's like exhausting just to think about it. And we know that that's how you're feeling if that's you.
Yeah.
But again, we want to say, if you failed at all the diets, it's really not your fault. Diets have really messed with our minds. They have really failed our society. They have failed us. And so it's time we put up our gutters. It's time we look at the Bible and see what the Bible has to say, because the Bible is our wisdom for weight loss.
Exactly. So yeah, we've got lots to talk about today for day 3 about really, like, you know, we've called the video today using biblical wisdom to lose the weight and keep it off. Really what this is about is that, but in the context of how do we actually create a healthy lifestyle for ourselves that we love, that we want to keep living, because you and I both don't want to continue living on crazy fad diets, but we want to lose the weight. We want to reclaim our health. And so it's about learning how to create a lifestyle for yourself, for your life, that's going to work, where you feel good, where you can maintain a healthy weight. And I think that's what we are like the most passionate about in this whole game is like, let's do this for the long haul. This isn't just a short game that we play and then it's over.
So we're getting into a league of bowling right now. Okay? So put up your gutters.
Yeah, exactly. And hi everyone. Guards. Hi Susan, Sharon, Terry. Welcome. Glad you're here.
Okay, so we're going to start right off with some biblical wisdom, and you will know this verse or verses, but today we're going to talk about it from the perspective of weight loss. Okay? So Galatians 6:7-9. Here comes. Do not be deceived. So don't be deceived with all those fad diets, okay? God cannot be mocked. A man reaps what he sows. The one who sows to please his sinful nature, from that nature will reap destruction. But the one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. So let us not become weary in doing good. I love that. For at the what time? At the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. So we're in this league. We're in this bowling league today, and we have our gutter guards up, and we are going to do this journey together.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you're gonna get a strike and knock all the pins down.
Nope.
But we're gonna score some points,
But
right?
some-
We're gonna be in the game.
Some days you are going to knock all those pins down. And some days maybe you're going to only get one down. Some days you're going to get 3 down. But you're going to get some down every day when you're focusing and inviting God into the journey daily. And you're going to stay on that narrow road.
Yeah. And I think, you know, my favorite part of that verse is let us not become weary in doing good.
Oh, yeah.
Because, like, if you're weary on your weight loss journey, you're not alone on that one, let me tell you. But, like, again, we talk so much about shifting our perspective, shifting our mindset about losing weight. When we're just on another horrible fad diet that we hate, we're weary before we even start, right? Because the thought process of like, oh, I have to get on another diet is horrible. It's weary. Like, it makes us weary before we even begin.
Yeah. Just thinking about that makes us weary.
Yeah. Or like we were saying, you know, the thought of the yo-yo dieting makes us weary because it's like, it's exhausting. It is. It's totally exhausting, but it doesn't have to be that way. In fact, we've said so many times, like, you really only have to lose the weight one time. And that is such a mind-blowing concept for so many of us because we've lost and gained the same weight so many times that it feels like that just has to be the rest of our life. But it doesn't.
No. When you're in maintenance, it's totally different. You still have to always be on guard. You have to have your gutter guards up all the time then too.
Mm-hmm.
But what you're doing is you're not yo-yo dieting. What you're doing is maybe going up and down a few pounds because that's good for your metabolism.
Yeah,
That's
and when you
something
say that, you
totally
mean in a
different.
very controlled way,
Yeah,
right?
in
It's
a-
not like binging to
No,
gain some pounds and
no.
then like starvation to lose it again. It's like an intentional thing to do that we're not, like, we have a whole process for that.
Yeah.
That is very intentionally done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so today we have a lot to talk about, but we want to ask you a question right now. And thanks for your comments. And Terry says your program works. Yeah, we know our program works because it's based on biblical principles. It's not anything like a magic pill. It's not something that just goes boom and it's done. But we're learning and growing and getting closer to God in the journey and learning to love ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And once we learn that, which I'm going to say, I think learning as women of faith, I think learning to love ourselves takes a lifetime. Really, honestly, that's what I think.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're like me, you look in the mirror and you go, oh, another wrinkle. You look in the mirror and you go, well, my hair is getting gray. You know, like we always have these things because we're moving forward in life. But we need to learn how to change the perspective. So as we go into what it means to live a healthy lifestyle, what does it mean to you? Put in the comments what a healthy lifestyle looks like to you.
Yeah, when we've asked this question in the past, it's quite interesting because some people have very positive ideas about what it means to live a healthy lifestyle. And some people have quite negative ideas because to them, it's just another word for diet, right?
Yeah.
And I think, like, we've said so many times too to people when they're asking us about our 10-day weigh down program, like, is this just another diet? And like, no, absolutely it's not. But if you treat it like it's just another diet, then it is just another diet.
That's right.
Right? And like, that's the thing. We have to choose when we start this weight loss journey of surrendering it to God, we have to choose to make this into a lifestyle, to make it fit our life, to find freedom within, like losing the weight, and find freedom with food, because it's not just another diet.
Exactly.
Right?
Amen.
And if you are going to make it just another diet, then I'm going to say don't bother starting and don't bother purchasing it because then it is just going to be another yo-yo diet. And
that's not what our goal is.
No.
Our goal is to live a healthy lifestyle so that you feel good about yourself, so that you have your God-given confidence, that calm confidence that comes from knowing you're a child of His, that comes from living with the Spirit within you because you know that you have the power within you to live out His purpose.
Because the goal of our 10-day weigh down is to teach people the biblical principles behind losing weight and treating your body like a temple. And yeah, some of those things are going to feel different maybe than what you've been doing. maybe some of the things are going to feel a little bit like a diet, because when we're in weight loss mode, there's just some uncomfortable things, which we've talked about in the last few days. And so, like, we're not saying it's easy. That's not at all what we're saying. But what we are saying is that these are principles that we are wanting to like instill into our like minds, hearts, and souls to carry out for the rest of our life, because that's what it's about.
And we know that we can't do it alone, because I'm going to say the devil just plays havoc with our minds so quickly that we get discouraged and we doubt ourselves. And when we get discouraged, we get it spiraling downwards, and then it's hard to pick ourselves back up. That's why we constantly need motivation and encouragement and inspiration. And that's why Casey and I are here on YouTube to continue to encourage you, to inspire you, to motivate you, to tell you that yes, you can do it. You know, surrendering the journey daily, we know that it is possible. If we believe the Bible, then we have to believe all of it. And we know that it is possible. Through Christ, it's possible to do all things.
Yeah.
And that includes a weight loss journey. So we hope that you're getting encouraged. We hope that you're inspired. And let's talk about what a healthy lifestyle looks like.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing. If you want to check out our 10-day plan, the link is in the description below. It is all about learning to lose weight without being on a diet, by using biblical principles to like fuel our bodies to create a healthy lifestyle that we love.
Yeah.
So check it out in the description if you would like. Yeah, and it's what I used to lose 85 pounds and then 65 pounds after 2 pregnancies, so 150 pounds.
Wow.
Ruth has lost 20 pounds. We've both kept it off because we've applied these biblical principles. The first step of it is surrendering the journey every stinking day to God, because if we surrender everything else in our life to him, like, we better surrender this part, because this is a difficult journey.
That's right. And then the other part of that is to find joy in the journey, because if you're just dreading this lifestyle, if you're dreading a healthy lifestyle, well, you better change. I'm going to say you have to change your attitude. You know, you get to change your attitude. You don't have to, you get to.
Yeah.
But it's not going to work unless you actually changed your attitude.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So, yeah.
Okay, so Terry says a healthy lifestyle means to fuel our bodies.
Yes.
You must
Amen.
have been around for a while, Terry.
Love it, Terry.
And Susan says being able to move easier and feel better.
Yes.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's so true. You can do all that when you're living a healthy lifestyle.
And then Susan says having a healthy lifestyle would mean it would be a second nature to me and stop being so obsessed with food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I hear you there.
That's a great comment, Susan. Because I think you're right. Having that obsession around the food makes it so challenging. And, you know, I mean, I can say that with full understanding, because I've like been there, done that, and still struggle with it from time to time, right? Like, every day is different. Every week is different. Every season of life is different. Sometimes we're maybe dealing with a really stressful situation that kind of like sends us a little ways backwards. And so I think that's where talking about having those gutter guards up is what we're talking about, because like, no matter where you're at in your weight loss journey or your health journey, or you're like maintaining the weight loss, sometimes we veer off to the sides towards the gutters, right? Even if we've been doing this for months or years or decades, like living a healthy lifestyle, right? Sometimes we veer off course. And so when we have those gutters in place, like we call them safeguards, or using wisdom over willpower, when we have that in place, then we can like ding off the side and kind of like get right back on track, right?
And sometimes the faster we go, the quicker we ding back. That's called resiliency. We need to be resilient when we make wrong decisions, when we've fallen off the wagon, when we've gotten off track, when we've had those disruptions, because life happens.
Totally.
And we're not, we know that. We're not saying this is never going to happen, because it is. Like, even psychologists have the stages of change. Addicts fall off the wagon sometimes.
Relapse.
Yeah, and so we do the same thing with food. It's like an addiction, and when we learn what it really is, an addiction with food, then we can learn to bounce back quicker, and relapse is all cycled into learning to do it God's way.
Totally. Yeah.
Okay, so I think, like, what do you think about a healthy lifestyle? What does it mean to you?
Having a healthy lifestyle to me means like being mindful of how I treat my body in more ways than just food. And like I'm kind of thinking today, we had company last night. My brother-in-law was visiting, and so we stayed up late. And I like almost never stay up late. Okay, 9:30 is like lights out at my house.
Well, because our kids are up early.
Yeah, and so like I don't even remember the last time that I stayed up past 10. Not even New Year's. Like New Year's, we're like, well, maybe 9:45, and we'll ring it in and go to bed. And so last night I was up till like 11:30, and I don't feel great today. Like, I mean, I'm fine, but I'm quite tired, and I just feel like I can't get myself going today. And we knew when we stayed up that that would probably happen, but we don't get to visit my brother-in-law very often, and it was, the kids were sleeping, so we could finally chat, all those things. But living a healthy lifestyle to me is like about all of those things, right? It's not just about what we eat. It's about being mindful of how I treat my body. And so that means things like sleep, that means movement, that means drinking my water, that means not drinking too much caffeine, that means what I choose to eat. Like it's so many things wrapped up into one, because we have so much control over how we feel and our bodies. There's definitely some stuff we cannot control, but we have a lot of control over a lot of the factors about our health.
Yeah, very well said. I think, well, that's really good, because it does include so many aspects of our life. Make a healthy lifestyle to me means making decisions that align with my goals in every area of our life. Like, what do I value? What are my values? Well, I have to think about, first of all, my spiritual value, my spiritual goals, and my physical body goals, my emotional goals, my relationship goals, my mental wellness goals, and my nutritional goals. Like, they're all a big part of the whole picture. That's why we need to look at this journey with joy, because it encompasses so much, every aspect of our life. And we want to do it God's way. So we have to surrender, like you said, start with surrendering every single day and every part of our life.
Well, and it's interesting too, if you think about a healthy lifestyle, like it's going to look a little bit different for all of us, because our lives are all different, right? And we're different people. We're all unique. Like, you might hear me say I like to go to bed at 9:30, and you might think, oh my goodness, that sounds like my worst nightmare. Like, right? Maybe you're a night owl.
And I don't go to bed at 9:30.
Right?
Okay? So, yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to. That, like, going to bed at 9:30 isn't a healthy lifestyle for everybody. For some people, going to bed at 11:30 is a healthy lifestyle, and then, you wake up at 7:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning. And so this is about where it's individual and it's unique for all of us. Like, there's some principles I think that we can apply to all of us. Like, we all need, between whatever the thing is, 5 to 7 hours of sleep, or 6 to 8, or it's kind of changing all the time that way.
And
But
each person knows what they need.
Right. And so like we need good sleep every day. Like, that's a principle that we can apply. But whether those hours of sleep happen from 9:30 to 5:30 like they do at my house, or whether they happen from 11:30 to 7 at your house, really the issue isn't exactly the hours. The issue is that you're applying that principle to your life. Same thing with what we eat, right? Like, there's some principles we can apply, like eat 5 to 7 vegetables a day, but you
Drink
can
8
eat
glasses of water a day.
Exactly. So we can apply the principles, but I might like to eat all my vegetables at lunchtime and have like the world's biggest salad. That's not what I do, but just as an example. And you might like to spread it out through the day, right? Or I might like to try and pack all my water in before 2 o'clock in the afternoon, so I'm not awake all night long going to the washroom. Like, the principles apply, but how we apply them each uniquely to our life can vary, because our lives are different. We're individuals, we're unique. We all have different things. Like, Terry, I know you're out and about a lot. So applying the principles of a healthy lifestyle to your life is going to look different than me, because right now I'm home most of the time with my kids, right? So it's about figuring out these principles and then looking at our lives and going, okay, how is this going to fit into my life?
And I'm going to say putting up the gutter guards, because like Casey just said, she didn't get much sleep last night. So tonight she's going to have the guard up because she's going to get a good night's rest because she knows she can't continue doing this every night, what she did last night.
Yeah.
And so that's the same with you and I. Sometimes we make decisions like the 80-20 rule. We talk about that a lot. But I mean, you just said that about your sleep. That was once in a month.
Twice a year.
Twice a year that you went to bed that late.
Yeah.
But there was a reason you did it, and you did that 20% or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's how we have to treat our bodies when we're talking about weight loss. We have to look at what we're doing and really decide if we're in alignment with our goals. Are we going to reach our goals if I make this decision today? Because if we make too many of those decisions that are past the gutter, it's not going to work.
Yeah, and it's hard to get back on course then, the more decisions that we make that are in the gutter. But I think we should talk for a minute. We hadn't planned this, so you might need to work with us a little bit here. But like, if we think about creating a healthy lifestyle for ourselves, and then if we think about the principles that we need to apply, or the biblical wisdom that we need to apply in order to create a healthy lifestyle, like, let's just talk about what those principles are. We've already kind of talked about a few of them, but like, I think what we talked about yesterday, using moderation and portion control, that's a principle that we need to apply to our life to live a healthy lifestyle, right? Yeah. That's one.
Another principle is our mindset, because we have to view our health as a priority, like, and it has to be a joyful priority. We have to think of it in a light way that's going to make us happy. We need to find joy in the journey. And so we have to say these positive affirmations to ourselves. We have to always be thinking of the good things, not the negative things. And one of the things that comes to my mind is we are overcomers. We're not the victim. So we have to apply that principle because God tells us that we're overcomers.
Totally. Another principle is, like you said before, drinking enough water, right? You should be drinking at least 8-ounce glasses a day, but really you should be drinking half your body weight in ounces of water each and every day. That's another principle to apply to your life. Another principle is to, like we said, have 5 to 7 vegetables every day. Another principle is move your body every day, whether it's like doing a YouTube workout in your living room, whether it's going for a walk outside, whether it's like, I don't know, putting on your favorite song and dancing in your living room. Like, move your body every day, even if it's for 10 minutes.
Yeah, you might not feel like it, but it's a principle. You need to be moving your body to get this goal accomplished. Another one is accountability. This is a key principle. And you know, accountability is so important because it makes us follow through. If we tell someone we're going to do it, well, let's say what we mean and mean what we say. Let's do it.
Yeah. And another major principle to apply is monitoring your sugar. Okay,
that's a big one.
25 grams of sugar per day is kind of what you should be aiming for, including your fruit. And so if you want to lose the weight, if you want to reclaim your health, if you want to live a healthy lifestyle, we've got to monitor that. So that's another principle to apply. How you want to apply that is really up to you to build that into a healthy lifestyle. So I think, like, moving forward for each and every one of you, take those principles, take moderation and portion control, take eating your fruits and vegetables, take monitoring your sugar, take movement, take being mindful of your like your mental state and how you're talking to yourself, and viewing yourself as an overcomer. Take those principles and like sit down with them, write them down and go, okay, how is this going to work in my life? Like, if you know that you work in an office Monday to Friday from 9 to 5, how are you going to include those principles in your everyday living? Does it mean that you're going to prepare salads on Sunday that you have ready to take for you for lunches so that you're getting your vegetables? Does it mean you're going to go out and buy a new water bottle that you're going to take with you where you go so you're drinking your water? Does it mean that you're going to start going for a walk on your lunch break so that you're getting some movement into every day? How are you going to take those principles and apply them to your life? Because that's what matters.
Because that's going to make you consistent. And consistency is key in this bowling game, okay? Yeah. And that's what we have to do. Be consistent in all of those things because we have control over the ones you just talked about.
Yeah.
We don't have control over the scale. So that's another whole thing, is that if we have to work on our mindset, because if the scale is wreaking havoc and discouraging us, hide the scale, because our identity is not on the number on a scale.
No.
Our identity is in Jesus. Our identity is in Christ, and we have to learn to let go of the discouragement, or if that's changing your mood or altering your day, get rid of it and just focus on your health.
Yeah, exactly. Hi, Chrissy. She says, what are your thoughts with consuming 2 meals per day? I know many of us prefer 3, but I'm longing to only bring fruit and veggies for my lunch while I work. Breakfast at 7 and dinner at 5:30.
Yeah, and you know what? We think that's fine. 2 meals, lots of women do 2 meals because they do some intermittent fasting. I just want to say, just make sure you aren't starving yourself, because you don't want to get into starvation mode, because then your body will hold on to the weight.
Yeah.
So as long as you're fueling your body with those 2 meals, that's perfect.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, so consistency. In fact, I think like a long time ago, I always remember we saying, I'm learning to speak English today, us saying we have to be, how did it go? Persistently consistent, or consistently persistent, or something like that, right? Like we have to be consistent even when we don't feel like it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we're going to be perfect, because we know we're not going to be perfect. Consistency does not equate to perfection. Okay, those are 2 very different terms.
Absolutely.
Consistency means that, like, over time, if somebody were to look at our life, they would go, yeah, Casey brings a salad to work most of the time for lunch, so she's eating her vegetables. Or it would mean, yeah, Casey goes through the drive-thru on her way to work every Friday morning for a coffee, right? Or it would mean, like, if somebody were to be a fly on the wall and look at you, they would be the generalizations that they would make about you.
Yeah, like, do you have pizza night every Friday? Like, lots of families do that.
Yeah.
And if that's your thing, it doesn't mean you have to stop having pizza night, but maybe you're going to portion control, and you're going to make sure there's vegetables to go along with your pizza, so that you just have a little bit of pizza and lots of veggies, because that's going to keep you in alignment with your goals.
Totally. Or make your own pizza at home and make it a healthier version of pizza. Like, there's lots of ways that we can be consistent, but you got to ask yourself, like, right now in your current life, what are you consistent with?
And what would other people say you're consistent with?
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad, it's time for reflection. We have to know and become aware, so that we can alter things if we need to.
And so, like, one of the questions that we've often talked about is, like, why do we struggle so much with consistency? And it always reminds me of the verse. I talked about it the other day already, and I can never remember the reference, but the one where it's like, why do we do what we don't want to do?
Oh yeah, I don't know where that is. Offhand.
Yeah. Anyways,
It's Paul who says it.
Yeah, it's Paul, and he's like, why do we do what we don't want to do? And that's us, right? That's us as humans.
It's the desires of the flesh, because as soon as we see a TV commercial about donuts, oh, I want a donut, or it's pizza, or I want pizza, like, it's like getting off course. It's the gutters.
Yeah.
We're aiming toward the gutter. We're going that way. We're going this way. We're so distracted. We call that shiny object syndrome, when we see something and we want it, because we live in this world of instant. So we see all the billboards, we see all the restaurant food enticing us, and we want it. But then we have to take a step back and look through a different lens, because we talk about the lenses that we're looking through as well. Sometimes our lenses are not in focus.
I think also sometimes we struggle with consistency because, like, we're not really engaged with what we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? Like, if you think about yourself and the last time that you kind of fell off the wagon on a diet, and you weren't consistent, you probably weren't very engaged or, like, enthused with that diet anymore, right? Because typically, like, when we first start something, we're kind of like gung-ho about it because it's new and it's exciting. And then as time goes on, we get kind of tired of it.
That just
right?
reminds me of, I remember doing Atkins one time. Oh my goodness. Like, I just get sick on that so quick, because some people can actually do it and feel okay. I just cannot do it. But I remember thinking, okay, I'm going to have bacon and chicken and eggs. And, I have my breakfast, and by lunch, I said to my husband, I just can't do this. I'm already sick. And it's so true. Like I already felt so ill, I would rather not eat.
Yeah.
And so that is no way to live.
No, and so you weren't engaged with it anymore,
No, I
right?
was
Like you were,
by lunchtime I was disengaged.
yeah. And so then we rationalize our way
Out of it.
into or out of it or into like not being consistent with it, because really at the heart of it we don't want to be doing it. And so like that's why the mindset piece of creating a healthy lifestyle for yourself is so important, because we have to stay engaged with it. We have to stay, and that's why renewing our minds is so important, because we have to stay engaged with it. We have to, and that doesn't mean you're not going to have hard days where you just don't feel like it, but that's where like it's a practice of self-discipline and self-control to go like, nope, like this is my lifestyle. And like sometimes you're not going to feel like it, but that's where like the rubber meets the road and we have to just get up and do it anyway.
Yeah.
And the more that those habits are ingrained in us, like, you know, the more that you're just used to going shopping on Saturday and prepping your food on Sunday so you're ready for the week, the more it's just habit and habitual like activities that you're doing, the less you have to rely on self-control and willpower, because you just know how to get up and do it.
And I'm going to say, you really begin to get engaged when you're finding joy in your journey, when you're seeing some non-scale victories, when you're feeling better, when you know your digestive system is, you haven't had Tums for the last week. Like it makes you want to keep going then. When you feel the difference, you're like, oh, this is worth it. You know, you sometimes need that little bit of encouragement, that little bit of inspiration to say, yeah, I can stick with this. I can do it.
Because a lot of the times even when those good things are happening, we don't focus on them.
That's right.
And so you're right. That's why sometimes we need somebody to go like spur us on, to keep us encouraged and inspired, because you're right. If we do focus on, like what the victories are, whether they're on scale victories, non-scale victories, the whole thing, when we focus on that, it does keep us engaged, because we're like, yeah, this is working. And I want to feel good.
Yeah.
And I am feeling better.
And my knees are not hurting as much. And my clothes are fitting better. And I don't have that heartburn anymore. And oh, wow, there's so many things.
Yeah.
So that does help us stay on track when we focus on the good. But the Bible tells us to think about the good things. So why do we go to the bad things? Why is it so hard for us to stay in the narrow way?
Because we let the gutters down.
Oh, I want to share a verse with you, because this is going to help you stay inside the gutters, okay? This is a great verse. It's from Isaiah 41:10. So do not fear. We don't have to fear this journey. So often fear comes in the way because we're afraid of the unknown. We're afraid of failure. We're afraid of so many things. We're afraid to tell someone that we're working on our health. We should be excited to tell someone that we're working on our health. But it says, so do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you, and I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. God is there to help us stay consistent. We might need to put up some boundaries so that we don't get side railed, so that we stay within those boundaries, but we can do it. He's there to help us. I mean, he's going to strengthen us, so we cannot fail if we're leaning on him.
Yeah, well said. Which leads us to another point that we have to talk about when we think about consistency. And we've already talked about it, but it's this concept of like we reap what we sow, right? And so consistency is the key to like reaping what we sow, because the verse says like a man reaps what he sows. Do we have the verse here? So I think it's just a little further over there. So let me just see where we are here. The one who sows to please his sinful nature, from that nature will reap destruction. The one who sows to please the Spirit, from the Spirit will reap eternal life. Let us not become weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. And so, like, again, it doesn't say perfection. Really, it's talking about consistency, right? If at the proper time we do not give up, we will reap a harvest. So it's like this concept of like we have to sow the seeds. Then we have to, seed, sow, time, reap, harvest. That's essentially like the progression of that verse, right? First, we have to have the seeds, then we sow them, then we have to wait because it takes time for them to grow. And that's the piece that we all don't want to deal with, because that's the hard waiting and the hard rubber meets the road doing in a weight loss journey. And then we're going to reap the harvest.
But it also says if we do not give up. So it means that if we quit, we're not going to reap the harvest. And so we have to just get that mindset of quitting or ditching it all. It's completely gone. We're in this race for life, because that's what the Bible says. We are going to reap a harvest if we don't quit.
Yeah.
But it's like springtime right now. It's a great analogy when we sow the seed. It's like you said, first we have to buy the seeds, then we have to sow them in the ground. And I know I'm going to be sowing some seeds in the ground very soon. I have to wait. The seed doesn't instantly pop out a tomato overnight, or a green pea, or a corn on the cob. There's a long time of waiting.
Yeah, and I think that's where, like, when we don't see anything happening, even if it's for a few days, we can start to doubt.
Yeah.
And we doubt the process, right? Like,
so quickly we doubt.
Yeah. Like, even in one day, like if we're actually talking about planting seeds, it's like, is this actually going to work? Is something going to grow? Is the weather going to cooperate? Does it have enough water? Is it drenched? Is it like, what's happening, right? And we worry and we stress ourselves out and we have anxiety over what we can't see, because the time hasn't, like, not enough time has passed. And that's where we have to trust and have faith that God's promises are true, and his promise is that we will reap what we sow.
That's such a good promise. I love that promise, and that should be very encouraging to each one of you listening today. We are promised that. We know that God's promises are true. He is faithful. We can trust his word. So are you going to jump in? I love that. We're going to jump off the diving board and trust that the water's in the pool. I talked about that the other day in my devotional. And it's just so good. We have to just take that leap of faith. We have to jump off the diving board and trust, whether we see something right now or not. Even when we step on the scale and there's no movement on the scale, stuff is happening inside your body. Just have the patience. In the proper time, it's going to come off.
Yeah. And don't derail yourself in the meantime in the waiting, because the waiting, I think that's so often where, like, we're refined in that time.
Yeah, that's what we have written down here.
Oh, there you go. I didn't even know that.
God wants to refine us through the fire, through the waiting, through the long haul. He wants to know if we are going to trust him and obey. He wants to know if we're going to just ditch it all, quit the game, quit the race, we're tired of running, or whether we're going to hang in there and do not grow weary.
And so if you have, like, if you are right now in a position where you have ditched it all and you're like way off the rails, like, get yourself back up, dust yourself off. Like, we have a little saying that we do is, like, if you're having a hard time accepting where you're at, we have this like 4-step thing that we talk about. It's like, accept it. First, you got to accept and acknowledge where you're at. Then you got to forgive yourself. You might have to forgive somebody else depending what the circumstances. You might have to forgive yourself. Like, forgiveness has to be a part of this as well. Then we got to surrender the journey moving forward. And then we have to actually take the next step forward. So it's accept it, forgive, surrender, and move forward. And moving forward can mean like the smallest tiny baby step you can possibly imagine, but take a step forward. Whatever it is. It might be going to pour yourself a glass of water, and that's your first step forward.
That's a great first step, because I don't have water here and I'm really needing some.
But should I go get you some?
Sure. And while you go and get me a glass of water, because I usually have my water right here in case you are drinking water through this. But if you're feeling, like she just said, if you're down in the dumps, if you've fallen off the wagon, if you have gained some of that weight back, if you don't like who you see when you look in the mirror, you have to start somewhere. And I love this quote by Bob Proctor, and he says, the answer to discouragement is intelligent action. So the first step might be to go get yourself a glass of water and drink it, and then be proud of yourself for drinking a glass of water. Like, that's a win. And we have to start to celebrate the wins, because that keeps us consistent. And I'm going to have a drink of water.
Yeah, or your first step forward might be saying no to the candy or the junk food that's in your cupboard. It might be saying, I'm moving this stuff out of here.
Because that was our homework on day 1. Did you check your pantry? What did you do when you found the junk in your pantry? You know, maybe today it's time to get it out of the house.
Yeah, and I think our homework yesterday, day 2, was to use portion control for the next meal, right? And did you do that?
Yeah, tell us in the comments right now. Be accountable. Did you do that? Did you make the next decision count?
Yeah. Because, like, let's face it, we're all gonna fall off the wagon. We're all gonna derail ourselves. We're all gonna like let our gutter guards down from time to time and go in the ditch, right? Like, that just is part of life. But we have to like pick up the next ball and throw it again and get the gutter guards back up
Yeah.
and keep on going and keep on pushing forward. Because, like, are you just gonna sit down in your life and accept defeat?
No,
No, we're
'cause
not.
God's calling us to something different. And I think that's what's so good is we're refined through the fire. We're refined through the long haul of this journey because it is hard. But God is drawing us to himself, and we are going to be, I'm going to say, better women of faith. We're going to be better in ourselves, and we can love ourselves more when we start to think about that and make those good decisions and talk well about ourselves.
Well, and I just think to myself all the time, and sometimes I'm not very good at verbalizing this, but like, your story can be a testimony that will spur somebody else on as well,
Yes, it can.
right? And so, like, we have to stop looking at our weight loss journey as this, oh, poor me, I'm such a victim, why me, I hate myself. Like, God wants to use your story and your life as a testimony to his glory. And so if you're willing to surrender the journey, and like, there's so many reasons why we say we have to surrender the journey, but that's part of it,
It
right?
sure is.
Because, you know, I remember years ago when I was kind of first starting to like accept the fact that, like, sometimes I don't like my body, right? Sometimes I wish I was a different shape, but I'm not. That's never going to change. And I remember thinking to myself at that point, you know, maybe God wants me to be able to relate to other people who struggle with the same thing. And here I am, right? Like, we don't know why God has led us to where he's led us. We don't know sometimes why he's created us the way that he's created us. But if we're willing to surrender all of those things, he will work all those things together for our good. And that might mean that your life is going to be a testimony to somebody else who needs your story.
That's right. And we're all different. Like you just said, like, if you're struggling with your body shape, just know that when you lose the weight, your body shape is going to be the same. So you have to learn to love the body that God gave you, whether it's an apple or a pear or an inverted triangle or whatever the other shapes are. But God created you with intention. You know, he wanted you to be that shape. He has a reason for it. And maybe you don't like it, but you're going to learn to like it because that's how we're going to be refined through the fire.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Susan did her homework.
Yay!
Way to go. That's awesome. Terry says, yes, I'm a sugar addict and I need to not make that choice of sugar.
Yes,
and she says,
amen.
She finds, good point, I find consistency hard. I think we all do.
I think we all do. Is that exactly?
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things where, like, just had finished telling y'all that my brother-in-law was here and we were talking about a whole bunch of different things. But one of the things we talked about is knowing that we're not alone in our struggles. And that can help like eliminate some of the shame that we feel around some of these topics, like falling off the wagon. You're not alone. We've all fallen off the wagon. We've all failed at diets. We've all eaten too much. We've all, like, every one of us has experienced the same things that you have experienced. But when we never talk about it, when we never open up about it, when we keep it hidden in secret inside, it just breeds shame. And then that shame just keeps us down and stuck and not knowing how to move forward.
Yeah. And so we have to learn that our identity is not on the number on a scale. Our identity is in Christ. You know, we are daughters of the King. You are a beautiful woman, chosen for greatness. You have special talents and gifts that God has given you. Once we become a believer, we have these gifts from the Holy Spirit. Like, we are given these gifts to use. So we need to be using them. Why do we need to be healthy? To use our gifts for his glory.
Because ultimately, like, that's
Brings
where
us
we
joy.
find joy, and so much of like our life, we find purpose in that, because God has a purpose for each one of us, whatever it is. They're all different, but he's made you uniquely you, for a reason.
So if you are going forward, we are really proud of you. If you've fallen off the wagon, you can get up again. It's like we talk about little kids. They fall and they fall and they fall when they're learning to walk, but they always get up again. Nothing stops them. Nothing holds them down. And you can get up again too. If the scale hasn't budged in a while, get back on track to making every decision count. And like we like to say, it's one potato at a time. And you can lose a little bit at a time. Sometimes the scale doesn't budge, but you are still losing inches. You're still becoming who you're meant to be. And at the proper time, you will reap the harvest.
Absolutely. I just see we missed a comment here from Chrissy before. She says, I love knowing and understanding that that my heart has to change, okay, now I'm reading this wrong. I love knowing and understanding that it is my heart that has to change, not having motivation or willpower.
Yes.
The weight, etc. The weight I am intended to be will happen naturally when I listen to the voice of God. Yeah.
We have to do what we can do, but we have to listen to the prompting. We have to do the work. God is with us in the journey. And I'm going to say, it doesn't matter if you're deciding to eat an apple or a banana. I don't think that matters so much to God. What matters is that you're treating your body like a temple, that you're fueling your body. We still have our own choices to make.
Yeah.
And that's what learning to live this healthy lifestyle is all about. There's so much out there, and we get to choose, but we need to choose to make these decisions that actually honor the temple.
Yeah. And I've often said too, I see your comment, Chrissy, don't say sorry. I was apparently having a very hard time reading. The words
tired,
are little,
remember?
and I'm tired. And anyways, no, what you said makes perfect sense. But just to your point, Ruth, like, I've often said, I don't think God cares what the number on the scale says, or what size pants you wear. Like, that's not what it's about, right? Because healthy is a different size and a different number for each one of us. It's about like the state of our hearts and surrendering every decision and every aspect of this journey to him, right? Like, I can be healthy at this weight or 5 pounds lighter or 5 pounds heavier, right?
That's right.
Like, different phases of life and different things come into play. And like, if I start working out with weights, I might be 5 pounds heavier because I'm building more muscle. That doesn't mean I'm not healthy all of a sudden.
That's
right? So like, I don't think God cares about those details. I think he cares about the state of our heart.
Yeah.
And a lot of you are saying there that you're sugar addicts. Chrissy says, I am as well. I do not overeat, but the choices I make are filled with the poisonous sugar. Yeah. And you know what? You're not alone in that either.
No.
Like, that's the culture we live in. That's the easy stuff to grab. It's the stuff that makes us keep wanting to come back for more and more and more of it, because it's got addictive properties to it.
But I just want to say, having said that, Terry will vouch for me here, is that when you get past that craving, it's easier and easier to stay away from it. Like, our taste buds do change.
They really do. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And then Susan says, I'm also a sugar addict and I need to choose not to bring it into the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so much easier. Like, proximity is a big deal, right? If it's in your cupboard and you're sitting on the couch and it's 5 steps away and all you have to do is open a cupboard, it's pretty easy to say yes. If it's at the grocery store and you're sitting on the couch in your PJs, the chances of you getting dressed and going to the store are a lot less than they are if it's just in the cupboard, right? So proximity matters. And we call that wisdom over willpower, of like choosing not to have it there, using wisdom ahead of time. So when the temptation presents itself, you've got a safeguard in place of it not being there.
Yeah, you're not going to hit the gutter.
Yeah, exactly. Susan says, I feel like I've been run over by the wagon, with a laughing face. You know what? We've all been there too, Susan.
You
we
can
have
get up
all
again.
been there.
We know you can. We know you can put the gutter guards up. And we want to help you get there.
Yeah.
We really, truly do. And so, do you want to talk a little bit about moving forward?
Yeah. Well, I think, like, Susan, to your point there, what we would say is just get up and make the next decision count. whatever it is, whether it's that glass of water, whether it's moving, going for a 10-minute walk outside right now.
Whether it's cleaning out your cupboards and actually getting rid of it. I know Terry, I'm going to use you again, Terry. Terry told us one time she had just bought this whole thing of ice cream and she dumped it down the sink. Like she actually literally threw it in the garbage or went down the drain, and it was brand new. But she knew she needed to do that for herself, for her sugar addiction. Well, that is putting safeguards in place, my friend.
Absolutely,
And
yeah.
so, maybe that's what you have to do right now. Get some of that stuff out of the house.
Because the other thing that we have often said is every right decision sets you up for the next right decision.
That's right.
Because even if you think about cleaning out your cupboard, if you get rid of the junk, you're setting yourself up for the next right decision, because it's not going to be there when you feel tempted. Or maybe your next right decision is that you need to make a trip to the grocery store and go buy some healthy food, which is setting you up for the next right decision, because then you have the healthy stuff to pick from when it's time to make your next meal.
And what I was going to say there is buy yourself some things that you actually love to eat. Like I love blackberries. You might look at the price and go, oh, that's so expensive. But you're treating your body well. And it doesn't mean that you have to buy the blackberries. That's just an example. Like I love pomegranates. Like whatever you love. Maybe it's time to treat yourself, because we call all those treats, those sugary treats, we call them treats. They're actually not treats. They're harmful to our bodies. So maybe spend a little bit of extra to treat yourself well and see what the difference is.
Yeah. Sharon says it's a daily struggle to make the right choices.
It is. It's daily surrender.
Mm-hmm.
It is for us too.
Yeah.
We're not saying that we've
got it mastered.
We haven't arrived.
No.
This is a lifestyle that is ongoing. No one's arrived. In fact, I know other weight loss coaches who have fallen off the wagon.
Yeah.
And they were off the wagon for a couple of years. Now they're back on again. But it just is how it works. Like we have to be on guard. We have to have the armor of God on our bodies all the time, because Satan is prowling. He wants to discourage you. And like we often say, discouragement is the devil's most prized possession. If he can get us down, that's what he's aiming for. So we have to not let him get us down. We have to hold up our shield.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's a good point you make, Sharon, is we need to have the expectation that this is a daily struggle.
Yeah.
Or that it's a daily thing that we have to be mindful about. Because when we start thinking that we don't have to think about it anymore, then we do head down the gutters, because the devil is prowling around and he knows where we're weak. And I was just listening to a devotional the other day, like about how he's the father of lies. And so often lies are like perverted truths.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not like a way out in left field kind of lie that gets us. It's the lies where there's little bits of truth that get perverted a little bit and a little bit more and a little bit more. And then all of a sudden it's a lie, right? I mean, it's a lie as soon as you pervert it, but you get the point I'm trying to make, right?
It's like the serpent. Did God really say?
Yeah, exactly. And so he takes these things that get in our heads and they get twisted up to the point where then all of a sudden it's a lie. And like the example I'm thinking of in my head right now is like, you might be overweight. Okay. And so then that gets in your head, and then all of a sudden it starts to shift into, oh, I'm fat, I'm ugly. And all of a sudden your identity is wrapped up in the number on the scale. Right. And like, there's truth to the fact that you need to lose some weight. There's truth to the fact that maybe you're overweight, but then the father of lies comes in and starts to turn that into your identity and pervert the truth about who you actually are in Christ. And so it's these like small twists on truth that get the wires in our head mixed up.
Yeah, it's like the knife stabbing a little bit deeper.
Yeah.
Another little,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. So, yeah, how do we start? How do we get back on track? How do we make the next decision count?
Mm-hmm.
And then we make the next decision count. And so maybe you need to get a little chart out and give yourself a tick, give yourself a star. I mean, if something's going to help motivate you even this much, it's worth it.
And sometimes, I just got to say, sometimes you just have to give yourself a kick in the butt and go do it, even if you don't want to, right? Even if you don't feel like going to the grocery store, even if you don't feel like going for a walk, even if you don't feel like going to get that glass of water, like just do it anyway. That's called discipline. And
another principle of the Bible.
Yeah, and sometimes like we don't feel like it, but oh my goodness, get up and do it anyway.
But we don't feel like being overweight either. And we don't feel like having aches and pains. We don't feel like having indigestion, and we don't want to have heartburn.
Yeah.
So like we have to just switch our mindset. Like just do it.
Yeah. Just get up off your cushiony butt and do it.
I love that, a cushiony butt. And you know what? We all don't feel like it sometimes, but you feel so much better when you've done it.
Oh,
like
100%.
It was sprinkling or raining, and I didn't feel like going out for a walk, but I grabbed my umbrella and I put my toque on because it was cold. It was drizzling. It was miserable, and I felt so much better when I got in the door because I did it anyway.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to not let those, I'm going to say, the gutters take over, because I had to just get up off the couch and do it, or I would have sat there all afternoon.
Yeah, because I think this isn't in our plan to talk about either, but I think sometimes it's just a little bit of laziness that gets in, and sometimes
it's a lot of laziness.
Yeah. And
Let's be honest.
That's right. And sometimes we just have to go like, no, I'm going to get up and do this anyway. Like enough's enough, right? If you've had enough of where you're at, then you got to do something different. And sometimes that means like, just do it.
So if you're here still watching, thank you for being here. We're really excited that you are on this journey and that you're going to do it, because we know that you can do it with Christ. You can do all things. I think if you don't have our plan, we would really encourage you to get our plan. We know it works. We know it teaches you how to live a lifestyle that you're going to learn to love. It can help you get out of the cycle of the addiction from sugar, because our plan is low sugar.
It's not no sugar,
No.
but it's low sugar.
That's right.
Yeah.
And start to read the labels. Like, look in your pantry. Make the next decision count. You can do it.
Yeah. And I think, we didn't have this planned as your homework for today either, but your homework for today, for our last day of our Fire Your Diet workshop, is to take a list of those principles that we talked about earlier. So things like portion control, drinking your water, eating your vegetables, moving your body, getting enough sleep. Like, take the principles of what it means to live a healthy lifestyle, write them down, and figure out how you're going to implement them into your life moving forward. Because otherwise, we've just been sitting here talking. Like, if you don't go take action on something, nothing will change.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And if you need inspiration every single day, well, come back to our YouTube channel and search whatever topic you want, and you will find something on our channel. Like, we have almost 600 videos on our YouTube channel that are almost all about this journey. So you can just search what topic you want to look for, or that you need inspiration on, and we will pop up.
Yeah, exactly.
And we can encourage you again, because that is our goal. We want to encourage you, but you need to encourage yourself in that way.
Yeah. Which actually leads us to kind of our last thing that we wanted to talk about, which is, like, if you're here watching, could you please tell us what you would like to hear us talk about on this channel? Like, are there some specific topics that you think, oh, I would wish there was a video on that? It can be weight loss related. It can be anything.
Yep.
Because, our goal to be here is to have content that you want to watch. If we're not doing that, then what are we doing, right? Like, then we might as well not be here. And so we need to know from you what it is that you want to watch, or what you want to hear about from us. And, I think, like we've said, talking to each other about our channel in the last little while, it's like, we talk kind of about all things healthy Christian living, which can be a lot of things, right? That can be health in our mind, body, soul. It can be struggling with our relationships. It can be feeling defeated. It can be anxiety. Like, it's so many things. But we think sometimes what's happening is, like, people will find us for a specific topic and subscribe, and then they see that maybe we have a video on weight loss, and they're like, oh, I didn't want to learn about weight loss, and then they unsubscribe. And so, like, which is fine, it doesn't matter. But it's like I said, I think we want to make content that you want to hear about, because otherwise it's just kind of redundant.
That's right. And we also have a YouTube membership. If you're not a part of that, the link is in the descriptor. Our plan
I
link-
don't actually know if the link is in the description right now,
Oh, okay.
but there's a join button somewhere on your screen. I can add the,
Okay.
yes, I will
Yeah.
do that after we get off.
Yeah.
I'll edit it and add the link.
Because I do a weekly power surge, which is a little devotional, and I relate it to weight loss as well. So that's another video, but we generally have videos Mondays and Thursdays.
Yes.
And then the membership has another one, and we pray for one another. So, we want to help you in this journey. That's our desire. So let us know how we can help you.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And if you're watching the replay, let us know that too.
Yeah.
And let us know what you'd like to hear about on our channel, because we'll listen.
So I think that's all for now. Thank you for being here for the 3 days of our workshop. We hope it's encouraged you and inspired you. I think let's just know that this isn't an overnight journey. The Bible says we're going to reap what we sow if we don't get weary. And so let's do that journey together.
Mm-hmm. And thank you for all your comments. Shell, thanks for being here too. Love the encouragement. Thanks for the encouragement. The Lord wants the state of our hearts. Chrissy says coffee, tea, and Bible discussions.
Yeah,
Love that.
Yeah.
Thank you for everything. Yeah, and thanks to all of you for being here. So
yeah, thanks for the bottom of our hearts. And so until next time, which is going to be Monday, we'll be back on Monday. But remember, treat your body like a temple.
Not a trash can.
See you
Bye for
soon.
now. And fire your diet. Don't go back.